All right, guys, we are live. Welcome to the Bags to Riches podcast. I'm your host, Zach Ginn. And on today's video, I am with Davis Mendez. This dude is 22 years old. At the age of 21, he was clearing over $50,000 per month in real estate wholesaling. Davis has the checks. He's got the proof. Welcome on the podcast today, Davis.
Appreciate it, Zach. What's going on, guys?
All right. So let's get this started. Everyone's probably asking you, like, Davis, how are you making this $50,000 a month? Before we get into this, like, what is your story getting into real estate wholesaling at such a young age?
Yeah, so it all started about 3 years ago. I went kind of the obvious route at first. I got my real estate license, and I credit my early on success from getting my real estate license because it kind of set me up with a good, foundation to like understand real estate contracts, real estate transactions and everything like that. And it also kind of gave me, I guess, a little, like training wheels getting into going on appointments and like talking to actual sellers and stuff like that. So I just translated, I guess, what I learned from getting my license and transitioning into wholesaling. And I mean, I was only an agent for like 3 months, and the checks are bigger in wholesaling. So, it was a pretty easy decision.
Okay. And what market are you in for people that don't know?
I started out in mostly around Atlanta, Georgia, but I've grown to pretty much every state in the Southeast other than like Tennessee and a few other like Mississippi and stuff like that.
Wow. Okay. And can you break down really quickly, like your first like wholesaling deal and like kind of that process? Because there's so many people watching this right now. They haven't got their first deal. They're younger than you and they want to see someone like you that's actually done this business. Can you really share with us like your story getting that first deal?
Yeah, so I started out getting delinquent tax lists from the tax assessor. I started out with my local county, pulled a list, found all the properties that are delinquent on property taxes, got it skip traced, and just called every single person on that list. Went on about 2 appointments until I actually called this guy. And it's pretty interesting. So I called this guy who owed like $1,000 in property taxes on a piece of land. The land had some road frontage on a really busy road. And he quit claimed the property over to me, and I was liable for the property taxes, right? So in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to quit claim this property. I'm going to be liable for the property taxes, but I'm going to get a big banner. And I'm going to put "We Buy Houses" on it and put it on that property because I mean, it was really busy road frontage. So that's essentially what I did, thinking, okay, if I get one deal, I can pay off the property taxes, pretty much get the property and still have the marketing. And that's what I did. And then I put the banner up, ordered the banner. I literally had like $1,000 to my name. The banner was like $250. So I just went for it. And about 2 days later, a guy called me, invited me out to come look at one of his properties that he had inherited from his sister. And from then I just locked it up and I literally assigned it the next day for $19K.
Oh my, how old were you?
At the time, I closed the day before my birthday, and I think I want to say I was turning 21.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I want to say I was turning 20, maybe 20. Yeah.
What did that $19,000 do for you?
Man, I told my boss the very next day that I wasn't coming in. My broker.
What were you doing?
I was working at Keller Williams. I was working as a broker. I was still in like the training stages of being an agent, so I was kind of doing like inbound and outbound calling and stuff like that. So like I said, that helped me out with cold calling, doing that type of stuff. So, from there I was just like, hey, I don't want to be an agent no more. I'm just going to do this full time. So.
Wow. I mean, $19,000 divided by the 3. I mean, that would have been like a $600,000 plus in listings. I mean, that
I had
work.
They were paying me a salary to start off, and it was $24,000 a year. So it was, it was a pretty easy decision.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, my number one question for you is, I know the answer. I mean, I started at 17, but why would a motivated seller give you any credibility if you were 21 years old?
In my opinion, I think it's just all about how you carry yourself. If you, you do your homework, first of all, I took at least 2 months just studying, what to do like on appointments and how to really, understand this business. So I think having the knowledge kind of translated into confidence when I went on appointments, because I knew what I was talking about. I knew like lien process and probate processes and the whole 9 yards when it comes to transactions and getting it under contract and what that looked like. And I think, that just kind of, I guess, gave the seller confidence to want to work with me, that, okay, I'm young, but, people know that just because you're young, you can still know your stuff. So.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, is there any tips you can give for someone right now trying to like get their first like appointment or two if they're like really young? What are some tips that you can give to someone?
Yeah, I'd say just, don't, be yourself for one, but, putting in the work. You got to be consistent. You can't, make 5 calls one day and then no calls the next day and then, a couple calls the day after that, and just think that, that's going to translate into something. It's a good start, but, you need to devote at least, I'd say 3 to 4 hours, if possible, on just prospecting, doing everything you can to talk to sellers and make offers. That's really, I'd say that's got to be the first thing you can do to at least get your foot in the door.
Wow. And I 100% agree with that. I mean, the one thing I did, so before I did find you, you were on Instagram and you're another young guy. You bought like a laundromat, you're doing all this crazy stuff. But
Yeah.
something that really got me like excited was I saw you from, I think, last year on Instagram. You
Mhm.
posted all your checks on like a desk. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that was impressive. I mean, wow. So can you break down last year? You were 21 last year.
Mhm.
What was your biggest wholesale assignment fee?
So I think the biggest one, I ended up JVing with somebody, but he made 5,000 out of it, and I think the total was 36,000, and we walked away with 31.
Wow.
And we don't really focus in the center of Atlanta. I know the check sizes can be a little bigger, but on the outskirts, that's a pretty big fee for my area. So I was definitely happy with it.
Wow. And can you break down that deal? Like,
Yes.
how do you find it?
So this was right when we started doing texting campaigns.
Mhm.
We were using Lead Sherpa at the time, and we were running texting campaigns. And we had texted some guy about this property that that we knew that was vacant. I think it was from a Driving for Dollars list, and we texted him. It was on 5 acres. It had a mobile home and a single family home on it. The single family home was really distressed, but we went out there. Because he had already given us a number, we really pushed for him to give us a number before we went out there. And he said he only wanted 45,000. In my mind, going into the appointment, I knew 45,000 would work. And after seeing the property and, talking to him a little bit, I really didn't haggle with him. I didn't waste any time. I just put it under contract right there at 45, knowing that I knew I could assign it for a pretty good fee.
Wow. I mean, can you break this down? It's a little harder to explain. It's weird because I can look at a property, you can look at a property in your market and be like, you know what, 45, that's a killer deal. Let's do
Yeah.
it. How can you break that down for someone who's a little newer? Like, how do you come up with that 45? Okay, that's a deal. Like, how do you sort of do those comps?
So for me, I felt like I just got used to it over time. This was after, maybe a year and a couple months in. I knew what people were paying for this type of property in my area. I knew what the buyers were wanting, right? And I knew that, with the land that it had, combined with the single family home on it and the mobile home, there was a lot of buyers in my area who were looking for stuff just like that. Because a key thing about mobile homes is it has to have a septic tank, and there's a septic tank in place. And there was multiple septic tanks on the property. So just, the experience of being in this market and knowing what people are looking for kind of helped me know just from early on. I was like, okay, 45 is a deal. Price points in our area, I mean, are pretty high. So if you can get a piece of real estate even under an acre for, less than 50 grand, it's a deal. So just knowing my market and knowing what buyers' appetites are is and networking with buyers, asking them, what are you looking for? What price points are you looking at? So on and so forth. Really just kind of gave me the knowing of that was a good deal.
Okay. And fast forward to now, I mean, you're absolutely becoming a monster in North Georgia area for wholesaling. Can you break down your market and really what kind of marketing you're doing now and what really your business is looking like?
Yeah, so I'm based kind of in between Atlanta and Athens, Georgia, pretty much in that whole area. I just focus on every single county in that area, pulling different types of lists, sometimes mostly absentee lists, big bulk lists like that, and mostly doing texting and calling and filtering, just going through each list. We'll call the list first. Once the list gets pushed through our callers, at least 3 times, then we push it over to the texting campaigns and get the texting campaigns rolling. And then we just did that and replicated that in other markets throughout the Southeast, and just stick to that simple plan. We try to keep it really simple, honestly.
Okay. And I mean, keep it simple, stupid is always the way I do it.
Yeah.
I mean, SMS and cold calling's what I do virtually too. What
Mhm.
percentage of your deals would you say, like overall, like profit for the end of the month is virtual versus locally?
I'd say probably 2 to 1. We do probably for every 2 deals we do in Georgia, we do one outside of Georgia, maybe 3 to 1. I'd say, on the worst day. So.
Okay. And to break down that marketing, are you doing the SMS texting? Are you doing the calling? Like, what is that process looking like?
Early on from the beginning, yeah, and I did most of the calling and the texting for a while, just because I trusted myself to close the deal more than I trusted a VA to do it. But over time, you get to where you really want, to free up your time a little bit and start looking at it from a broader perspective. So, we got VAs in, and I think right now we're up to 7 VAs doing. We have a couple VAs doing the texting, then the majority doing the calling. And then we have, an acquisitions manager who manages the pre-qualified leads and makes offers, especially in the virtual market. So
Okay. And does that acquisitions manager do the Georgia stuff too?
the what?
Does that acquisitions manager do the Georgia, the local wholesaling
Yeah.
too?
So within an hour radius, I personally just still prefer for
Yeah.
me to do it just because I enjoy it. And I look for property actively myself too now. I like to kind of keep a close eye on what I see coming in my backyard. And then mostly for everything else, I let the acquisition manager handle it. Only if it's a multifamily property or, a couple of duplexes or a portfolio that I think, should really have my attention, then that's when I kind of step in and look at it.
100. Like Davis, I'm telling you right now, I did the same exact thing. Like
Mhm.
it's crazy how similar paths are. Like
Mhm.
I'm doing everything myself. I'm doing my texting myself, but like you make good money, but you work your butt off and
Yeah,
like
man,
free
and it was
time.
burning me out too. Like I love this industry, and I didn't want to be tired of it. I didn't want to be tired of talking to sellers and stuff like that. And that's where I was kind of getting. So it was the right time to scale out.
Alrighty. And one of the hardest things, I mean, I found, I don't know if this is similar to you, is finding good VAs and managing them. How are you doing that?
So I started out using when I did hire out cold callers. The first cold caller I ever got, I ended up busting them for like using my leads for somebody else. Right, that was like my first
Wow.
step into, and this was about a year. I actually got the memory on my phone. This is about a year ago when I busted them doing that. So that's why I kind of took more time to do it myself. And then eventually I used an outsourced cold calling group who like has their own VAs. They manage the VAs. We just submit the leads to them. And that worked well for a little bit, but I kind of didn't like not seeing the full production or seeing fully what was going on behind the scenes. So I went looking again. I ended up meeting a guy who I had as my acquisitions manager, and he ended up just having a lot of connections in the space. And we kind of have built out a team of cold callers and texters, and just he brings the people that he trusts, and we've created a good relationship where I trust him to bring me the best candidates for the job, and so far they've done really well. I really can't complain.
Wow. Okay. And do they do do they do the qualifications on the SMS also?
Yeah, so we have 3 guys doing the text messages, 3 guys doing the cold calling, and then we have the acquisitions person going through and going through our CRM and making offers to the hot leads, I guess.
All right. And are you using Sherpa for that?
And we're actually using REI Reply.
All right, nice. And it's
Yeah,
pretty cheap stuff. It's
yeah.
very
Have you used it?
not I've heard it. I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. The Twilio stuff's pretty good. I mean, they all use Twilio, but
Yeah.
pretty good. So, We got the marketing set here. We got the acquisition side. Now, this is the most important one here is your acquisitions guy, because that will
Mhm.
make or break your business here.
Acquisitions girl. It's a girl.
Oh, all right.
Mhm.
Sweet. So who is your acquisitions girl, and how did you find her, and what good is she?
So I actually found her through one of my VAs. I had VAs. What y'all will find getting into this business is the data. It piles up, and for me, it starts to get really unorganized, right? I mean, just having leads, they just start blending together, and you have all these lists. It was starting to become a pain. So I hired a VA to kind of manage all the data, pull lists for me, get him skip trace. He did skip tracing too. And then I just asked him if he knew anybody who, who spoke really clear, who was really nice, really friendly, who he thought would be good for this role. And he referred me to a girl named Michelle. And I met with Michelle. She's been a rock star. She works 7 hours a day, just going through our pipeline, making offers, building rapport, building relationships. And, she's done great. And I think so far, I think she's in the right seat. So
That's very important. I mean, it's so tough, kind of just giving something off to an acquisitions person, but
it is.
it's freed me so much. I
Yeah,
100% agree.
that was the
And
hardest part for real.
oh, it's killer. But they're closing deals. If can you explain really quickly? I don't want to give your secret sauce out there if someone in your market's watching, but
All
how do
good.
you how do you go about in that virtual process? Let's say you got a deal in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Mhm.
How does your acquisitions gal? How does she lock that deal up? Like, what's kind of the process?
So mostly for if so, say if it's depending on the market, like we're in for instance Huntsville, Alabama. We're in Huntsville, Alabama, and we're doing great in that market. And I don't care, anybody can go and try that market. There's room for everybody. But what I'm saying is, I've gotten very familiar with Huntsville, so now we can kind of make blind offers without seeing the property yet. We have trusted people out there that we send to go do inspections, to go take pictures and stuff like that after the fact, also using our due diligence period to do stuff like that. But say a market like Knoxville, where honestly we haven't done a deal yet. We're not really in Tennessee too much, but I have looked in Knoxville. Um, you know, if it were to come up in Knoxville, I'd kind of step in for a newer market like that and kind of work with her on getting our numbers together. Maybe even me calling the seller and introducing myself. And then from there, probably getting somebody who we have trusted to go out and, run appointments for us so we can look at the neighborhood, see if it's, a good neighborhood, what type of quality this property is and stuff like that. So we take it a little bit more slow on those newer markets, I guess.
Alrighty. And when it comes to that, so we lock up the virtual deal. When you get that contract signed, obviously you're not in Huntsville, Alabama. How do you
Mhm.
get that thing sold?
So one easy thing is Facebook groups, networking with people on Facebook, building relationships that way. And then let's see, I'm trying to think how I found my first buyer. So we go on PropStream. We just do a cash buyer search of that general neighborhood. And we look for LLCs and we look for people on multiple properties. We'll re-skip trace them and we'll reach out to them. I'll have a VA reach out to them, build a good relationship, let them know that we have some off-market properties that we're trying to sell or assign to. And, that's how we have ended up, building some great relationships with a lot of really great buyers in our markets. Some people who, buy 10 to 15 properties a month, and those are the buyers that you're looking for. So
Okay. And you find the buyer. So how do you bring them through the property if you're virtually wholesaling?
our it depends on if we get the property under contract, we'll get a lockbox on it, and that's what our boots on the ground guy will do. Also, he'll go out, put a lockbox on it. Sometimes if it's a new buyer, I like to have my boots on the ground guy to go out there with them to inspect the property. If it's somebody that we've already closed a couple of deals with, we don't mind him sending his general contractor out there, to inspect the deal or do what he has to do, as long as we trust him. If it's a new buyer, we'll send our boots on the ground guy out there with them to open the property up and view it.
Alrighty. And I mean, the boots on the ground is important. I mean, do you have any tips for finding someone with boots on the ground in a virtual market?
Honestly, find somebody that you really like you would like be friends with, like somebody that you would trust, right? You know, somebody who's kind of like you, somebody who's motivated, somebody that you think would actually go out there and do the job, but also somebody who wouldn't, you know, necessarily snake your deal. You know, you want somebody who carries himself well, who's professional, and you know, wouldn't go behind your back and try to, you know, I guess take the deal from you or something like that.
Dude, I can't even, like, I'm
That's
telling you, there's
very
some sneaky
important.
people.
We had an instance like that in Birmingham, Alabama. We had a guy that, you know, I mean, it was great. I interviewed him. He was awesome. But we sent him the address and then ghosted us, and then the property sold. So
I can't.
it's
Don't even get me started with that.
a learning experience, though. I mean, I'm, you know, it is what it is, right?
Alrighty. And so basically, can you break down for me what is your craziest real estate story?
Craziest real estate story. Um, trying to think. I have a couple. There's been a couple properties where I've walked in. You know, we knew the property was vacant. I've walked in, and there was just a homeless guy just literally laying out on the floor, like passed out, and it was like super dark. And like I just like walked in. I didn't even see him at first. I like stepped over him almost, and I saw him, and he didn't move. I didn't move. Like we kind of looked at each other, and I just kind of turned around and walked out. That was pretty interesting. Always make sure that you're hollering, you know, inside the house if it's a vacant house for that reason. Um, was it? There's been times where on texting, if anybody's out there texting for the first time, there are people who will mess with you. There are people who will pretend to be the seller, invite you out. You'll go out, knock on the door, and the person will be like, you know, what are you doing here? No, I never texted you. That's happened to me a couple times, honestly, and I'm ashamed to admit it. So I definitely cross-reference and you know, make sure that I have the right person. But I mean, every day is different. You know, that's the beauty of this industry. Every day, you never know what you're going to get, I guess.
It's insane. The stories I have are crazy. I mean, the next question I got for you, since you're pretty young, my age, how do you handle with your friends? Because obviously, 50K a month is pretty good. You might be a little more over there than your peers. How do you handle your friends, your family? You're starting to make a lot of money young. The cool part about you is you're spending your money on cash producing assets. You're not out there buying stupid cars and like
Always.
crazy Gucci stuff. I mean, you're investing it into generational wealth.
Yep.
How do you handle all of that?
Yeah. You know, I really, I try never to brag. I have a personal Instagram, and I don't really post anything on my personal Instagram. You know, to be honest with the checks, like, one, I like getting the checks just because I like to save them. It's like, you know, it's like the first step for me, you know, so I just save them. But I post the checks, to be honest, because Instagram algorithm just gives me a ton of views when I post the checks, you know,
Yep.
so that's when I post them, honestly. But, you know, as far as, you know, my friends and everything, you know, I'm always there to try to help them if they have any questions with real estate investing. I'm really big into the stock market too, and I'm always down to help them, you know, if they have any interest in those things. But other than that, you know, I don't go around bragging about how much money I'm making or really what I'm doing. You know, I just, you know, I still try to just be you know, just an everyday person, and you know, that's how I'll always be, I guess.
I mean, you're extremely mature for your age. I mean, it's awesome to hear that. For every one of you, there's like 5 guys out there that blow all their mony. But
Man, I mean the first, I'll be honest, the first thing I did when I cashed my second check was I bought a nice car. Okay, but I always wanted this car. I had the opportunity to do it. You know, I bought it. But other than that, you know, we don't splurge on anything, and you know, you're just trying to build assets for the long term. That's really the main goal.
all right. And one thing about real estate investing that I kind of wanted to bring on was laundromats.
Yeah.
So I think I messaged you probably 6 months ago or something. You're talking about laundromat.
Mhm.
Like, can you explain this? It's part of real estate. It's not like a rental. Not what's the ROI on it? And can you just give me a little like explanation on it?
Yeah, so the laundromat, long story short, it's a pain in the ass. You know, it's a pain in the ass. It was something that was just a Godfather opportunity that I couldn't pass up. The machines themselves, you know, they're very expensive, but they're really, really hard to find people to work on them, and they break constantly.
Yep.
So that's been the biggest kind of hurdle in doing it. honestly, it hasn't been profitable because of that.
Wow.
And I'm not a guy to hide, any type of, bad moves or anything like that. I don't think it was a bad business decision. It was a great opportunity, but the overhead that goes into managing these machines, and then people, the people who are using the laundromat often are lower income individuals, who, sometimes will steal things, will try to break into the change machine, will break stuff. And, it's just been, it was another learning experience, honestly. If I had an opportunity, I had an opportunity to get another one, and I passed up on it. I wouldn't recommend it, honestly. But it's a learning experience always.
Definitely. I mean, let's talk about some more of the profitable things you're doing here.
Yeah.
What's some other things you're doing with, I mean, 50K a month's pretty good. What are you doing and how are you turning that into an asset that's going to pay you for the rest of your life? What are some of the other investments you're doing?
So early on, some of the cash that I used was to get into the mobile home park niche.
Nice.
That's where I've got the opportunity for the laundromat, but really my primary focus was the mobile homes. You have mobile home parks, but some mobile home parks, they sell the individual mobile homes themselves. Now they're not real assets; they're still personal property. They're technically like a car. However, you can get them in parks where you have to pay a lot rent, and you can pick up these mobile homes for sometimes $1,000. Sometimes people will give you the mobile home for free. You can put, $2,000 to $3,000 into it to get it rent ready, rent them for $750, paying the $350 in lot rent. You're cash flowing, and you can do that, as many times as you want, and build up a portfolio where it's just paying you, however much your spread is on from the lot rent to the rent, So I think early on, that's what I did to set me up with cash flow. And, I still buy them anytime I have an opportunity to, but, obviously we want real assets, but that's one thing that I did early on to give me a really nice return on my investment.
Nice. I mean, mobile homes have been an absolute killer for us here in Florida. Uh,
Hmm.
most of the ones we do, like we buy them on the land, but you ever get into wholesaling mobile homes?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge demand here in the area. All throughout Georgia and the Southeast, there's a huge demand for land that you can actually land that the county will let you pull a mobile home on.
Yeah.
In Georgia, they've tried to phase it out really hard, but there's still land out there that you can put it on, especially if it used to have a mobile home on it. It already has a septic tank in place. All the utilities are ready to go, and people will pay a pretty penny just for a quarter-acre lot that you can pull a mobile home on.
Wow. I mean, would you say what's more profitable, Mitch, you've been finding, land or mobile homes?
They probably go hand in hand, honestly. Mobile homes on land, and then land that you can put mobile homes on. They're very profitable. I mean, you lock a piece of land up for $10,000, and you turn around and wholesale it for $20,000. You're still making, or assign it for 10,000 for a total of 20,000. You're still making 10 grand just as you did on $150,000 single family home. You're still making the same spread, so they're really profitable for us.
Wow. All right. And I got some more questions for Davis, but if you guys can, comment below your questions. I see we got some questions.
Yeah,
Comment your
absolutely.
questions for Davis, and he'll answer them. But my next question for you here is, in your wholesaling real estate business, has there been any like crazy lessons that's really kind of upped your game in wholesaling to make you a better wholesaler?
I'd say patience is the biggest lesson, hands down.
Hmm.
Never counting your chickens when you have a deal. When you put it under contract, just slowing down, and going through the process. Assigning it off to your buyer, and nurturing that closing all the way to the closing table. That's been my biggest lesson. I don't know if that's a problem in your business, but here, for some reason, it's like things just come up, liens, properties weren't probated properly, distant relatives who are still attached to the title that need to be found, all sorts of stuff that have come up where, I needed more in the getting the property to the closing table more than actually getting the property under contract.
Yeah.
So that's definitely been the biggest learning lesson. It's just being patient, working through all those hurdles, and making sure you get to the closing table.
Wow. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a smooth, like there's a couple smooth ones, but there's always something crazy going on. I mean,
The
that's
biggest checks have been the smoothest. The smallest checks have been the hardest to get through. But we're in this. We're in the helping business. It's our job to get it to the closing table. So
100%. I had one deal. Our acquisitions guy had to make 40 calls. It was nuts. The closing was insane. Lean issue. Made like $7,500 at the end of the day. But it
yeah,
was, but
it is what it is. But and then
def-
attorneys too. That was the last thing. Was make sure you got good attorneys. Good attorneys who respond to your emails, who respect what you do, and will work with you.
they are definitely worth it. So my next question here is: you're making good money on wholesaling. I mean, what does the future hold for you? And are you trying to scale your business?
Yeah, so basically my vision overall has always been diversifying what my company does. We real estate is always going to be my backbone, but I really enjoy the stock market. I really enjoy different startups and stuff like that. And I'll always be investing in diversified areas. Um, you know, right now, as far as real estate goes, I really love the single family space. But I'm really trying to push to get into multifamily as best I can. We are under contract and assigned to close on a 43 unit apartment complex
Wow.
that should close at the end of March. That will hands down be my biggest deal ever. And then we also are under contract for another 60 unit multifamily property.
Wow.
So both are going great. I'm praying that this will be, my next step into the multifamily space. And then from there, I think, that's kind of where I want to settle down is the multifamily and, probably like commercial investing. So
So those multifamily deals, are you going to wholesale them, keep them? What's the play on it?
So I worked with early on. I made a great connection with a great guy here in my local market who owns multifamily properties all throughout the Southeast. I mean, massive portfolio, thousands of doors. And after talking to him for a year and acquiring a bunch of condo units for him, we're kind of going into business together, working together on this 60 unit one. The 43 unit one actually was his that he asked me to find a buyer for. I found him a buyer in one day and he couldn't believe it. So from then on, he was like, "Find me an opportunity, and we'll do some business together." So I found him the 60 unit multifamily, and we're going to try to acquire it, and he'll give me an equity stake in it.
Wow, nice.
Yeah,
And so I get some questions here. Paul wants to know: is this possible if he's 40 years old?
of course. I mean, age means nothing. I mean, at 40, you can start now and be a millionaire in a couple of years. I mean, that it's all about getting over that mindset of well, I'm 40 now, I've ran out of time. No, I mean, just start now and never look back. I mean, that's my best advice.
100%. And then we got here, interesting question. How can you open a business account, put away funds for taxes and expenses? I'm not a lawyer, CPA. Davis isn't either, but
Not at
how is
all.
your wholesaling business kind of structured? Like, if you want to explain it.
So as far as taxes go, I'm not an expert
Yeah.
at all. I have a great CPA here in Athens that I tell him all the transactions I do. We set up all of our overhead, all of my costs and stuff like that, tax write-offs, everything, and he handles it. I'm not an expert, but I do know when I first started, he thought it was more beneficial to go into be an S corp. I don't know if you've heard it, if you agree on that. But he had me change over to an S corp, and I mean, I don't pay a crazy amount of taxes, but I do pay, so
Yeah. I mean, whatever the CPA tells me, I'm doing.
that's it. And I want to be more educated on that space, but no, it's very complicated.
Definitely. All right. This is awesome. Great stuff, guys. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. NTP asks, did you get into car washes at all?
Yeah, I actually worked at a car wash right before I got my real estate license. So I've been dying to get a car wash. Like if I come up on a good opportunity to get one, I will do everything I can to raise money to get one. They're not cheap, not the self-service ones. The actual self-service would be good, but the actual, like those like 3 minute car washes with the tunnels, I think those are great cash flowing machines.
Oh, definitely. And Rye says, how can I connect with Davis? I'm 18, looking to connect with young wholesalers.
Find me on Instagram. I think my Instagram's listed below.
Yeah.
DM me. I don't get on Instagram too much, so I'll try to get you on and reply to you as fast as I can. But just shoot me a message and I'll try to get back to you.
Dude, I've kind of shut down the social media when it comes to Instagram because it turns into a rabbit hole, and then it'll give you more stuff. You'll go down a crazy rabbit hole.
I've been taking a serious break from all social media. I don't know what it is. I just I've just been kind of doing my thing outside of that.
Definitely. Alrighty. So let's see. MTP. I don't know if we explained it. How did you find those multifamily deals, like marketing wise?
So the multifamily deal I actually found through our tax assessor is called Q Public. You just honestly going through and looking at a bunch of properties on Google Maps and looking for the big, just the block buildings. You can kind of point, you can kind of see the multifamily, property from pretty high up by just looking. But then also, PropStream, List Source, and a couple people who sell data that I met on Instagram that I got a couple of lists from.
And those big multifamilies are hard to hide. So
yeah, you'll see them from the sky view.
Perfect. And it's JR Bro asks, what car did you buy with your second check?
I got a Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT.
Nice, man.
I've always wanted that car, so I just had to
go off-roading on it.
Not too much. It's kind of like it's more beefed up. It's kind of like a drag car almost. And I just had a daughter, so I needed an SUV to carry her around in.
Wow, congrats, man.
Thank you.
All right, and Chardon asks, what's a good list to door knock in 2021?
I'd say, honestly, anybody who's delinquent on property taxes, if you can go actually to their mailing address where they actually live and, just kind of show up and talk to them about it. Because what I've found is a lot of people who are delinquent on property taxes don't necessarily take care of their responsibilities, right? They aren't willing to, go the extra mile to get this situation taken care of. They're in that position to begin with. So, I think that's a really good list. And I know some guys, here in Athens who door knocked and found this $1 million portfolio that they didn't end up closing on it, but they were so close to closing on it. And they just pulled up to the guy's house and door knocked. And I was honestly amazed. I've never door knocked for real estate deals, but I know it works. I know a lot of people who do it.
Takes a lot of courage, but it's killer.
Yeah.
All right. And then Brian Steven kind of asked the same question, your main marketing channels. If you can say it one more time for everyone.
Yeah, I'd say 50-50 texting and calling.
Perfect. And one last question here. Alex asks, how much are you spending a month in marketing?
In marketing, about $6,000.
Nice. That's killer right there. So do you agree that it's better to run a crazy or leaner operation than be on the more leverage side?
What do you mean? Actually getting debt to fund your business?
Yeah.
I stay away from it always. I will stay away from debt. And it amazes me that people are actually, using debt to run their real estate business. I mean, I know guys in Atlanta right now who are about to go underwater because they were so over leveraged. I mean, and they had massive operations and they're about to go under, and so I just use all my cash that I make to reinvest back in the business right now.
Perfect. And then good choice. Time for a Trackhawk. Oh boy.
I wasn't prepared to spend $100,000 on it. However, that's a nice car though.
All right. And then Lay asks, last question here. Do you use PropStream?
Yeah, not my main focus, but it's a useful tool to have. So I keep it around.
Perfect. And so last couple of questions for you here, Davis, is what is, I heard you tell me before this podcast, you were sort of developing something in the back end here.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is a little bit? I got to pull up the link to it, but
it's not live yet. It's not live yet. It goes live next week. But back in October, I kind of just had this idea about kind of like something like this, like a live platform where you can basically it's focused around hosting live classes where individuals can either teach a live class or join a live class on a subject that they want to learn. I think it's a really cool way for, a lot of talented people out there to, share their knowledge and their skills with their followers or whoever, whatever type of audience they can generate. It's called GoTeach.live. It's like I said, it's just basically a website where you can go create a profile. and sign up to either be an instructor or a student and host or join live classes to learn about stuff. And yeah, I think it's a great space, for entrepreneurs who are looking to, just build another source of income, teaching a class a week, getting 10 people on there to join the class and charging $10, you're making a little bit of change just for doing what you love. So
Sweet. Definitely. I put that bookmarked. Definitely joining that thing. Looking forward to it.
yeah, absolutely.
One really important question. I feel dumb for not asking this. Is what are your top places for skip tracing? Since you're doing quite a good amount of skip tracing.
So I made it the same manager that I did have. I made a connection with him, and we get a skip trace from him for 10 cents a lead. And it's normally great data. I mean, I use it personally, and if anybody needs skip trace or anything, reach out to me. I don't sell it like that. I'll honestly just give you the connection to get the skip tracing. It doesn't matter to me. But it's great data. So I use him all the time.
Perfect. And last couple questions here for you before we wrap it up. If Davis, if I sat you down with your 18 or 19-year-old self just getting started in real estate, you had to sit down, you can only say a couple things. What would you tell that 19-year-old version of you? What would you say?
Definitely don't stress out. Don't lose sleep over this stuff. Just stay the course, do the necessary actions that you got to do. And just, continue to put your head down and work and don't lift it up until the job's done, really. I think early on that kind of hindered my timeline of success was because I felt like I'd work really, 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 really hard, get a bunch of deals in the pipeline, close a good bit, and kind of let off a little bit, and I did that for about a year, just kind of working hard for a quarter, closing the deals, then taking maybe a month, and going a little slower, a little lighter. And, I definitely wish I didn't do that, but, definitely not stressing out about not getting a deal. And, just, continuing to stay motivated and know that you got to do what you got to do.
Wow, definitely. And last couple things here. What is your IG? And I guess we're all going to bully you here. Do you have a YouTube channel? And lastly, why don't you have a YouTube channel? People want to hear from you, man. You're giving like absolute gems.
I don't have a YouTube channel, and I promise. Like honestly, once we get done, I'm gonna make one. Like I gotta make one. But it just hasn't been my focus. I don't feel like I'm very creative with the content aspect of it. Maybe it's just like a mental block thing. Maybe it's just like keeping me from doing it. Maybe I just should. But I'll make one as soon as we get done. I'll make one.
Sweet. And what he'll do is he'll message me. I'll put in the comments for you guys to do it. But your IG is right here, dude. He gives pretty good information, and he does a couple of videos, kind of like YouTube, I guess, and good value. So that's Davis Real Estate right there. Definitely check him out, Lay. But last question for you is at the Bags Riches podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I started when I was 17 years old with $300 in my bank account.
Mm-hmm.
If you are 17 years old again in 2021, what would you do to become the next Davis Mendez if you only had $300?
$300. That's a good one. So I'd probably take 50 and I'd spend it on a full tank of gas, and I'd definitely drive for dollars. I love driving for dollars. I drive for dollars to this day. And we're working on building a fleet of driving, a team of drivers, to really scale out all around Georgia. I'd say drive for dollars, and you can build a massive list doing that. I'd use some of the funds to skip trace that list. I wouldn't go ahead and hire a VA. I wouldn't get any acquisitions manager. I would just sit down and I would burn the phone up like nobody's business, right? I still think that's a tried and true way to get deals done. And I also think, on top of that, if you do get a deal, build a great relationship with those buyers that you work with on that deal. Make sure that they understand that you really appreciate this industry, that you want to be successful in this industry. And a lot of times they can help you out with growing and getting to those next levels. So I think that's, probably where I'd start.
It's powerful stuff, man. Davis, I really appreciate you coming on. You're mature beyond your years. You're absolutely just going to crush it. I can't wait to have you on next year when you're doing $5 million and, multifamily stuff.
We'll see.
I mean, one last thing before we hop off. Is there any like parting thoughts you have for the guests before we hop off?
I everybody out there is meant to do something, great. I'd say whatever it is, it may not be real estate. It really may not. But as long as you can channel the motivation to work as hard as you possibly can and just love whatever you're doing and put all of your energy into it, you will be successful at it. And if it's real estate, it's going to happen no matter what, as long as you do the work. That's really, I mean, that's the bread and butter of it all.
That's it. Davis, thank you so much for coming on today. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe. Get more content from us. Weekly Back to Riches podcast. Thank you guys so much and have a blessed day.